starting. Bob will show up when Bob shows up, and we can talk about it at that point in time. Thank you, everyone, for coming and joining us. I really appreciate it. I don't know if anyone's on Zoom. If not, hello. Reminder: we're recording it. We got new microphones, so hopefully everyone can hear us a little better. And I won't be shuttling around a little hockey puck around the room anymore. So that's what's up. I mentioned it before, we were originally supposed to have the Office of Sustainability, Climate, Equity, and Resilience from the county presenting at today's meeting, but they had to cancel because this week are the budget hearings at the county, the Finance Committee. So I think they're presenting tomorrow, literally, maybe. They're on schedule. Whatever. It's very busy over at the county right now, and we understand that is going on, but transition back. The finance meetings are super important, and thank you everyone. I think literally everyone in the room probably sent in testimony, I believe, and it mattered a lot. There were 37 pieces of testimony. The nice thing about the county council is that everything's public there. It's all on the public record, so we can log on to the website and see what was submitted. And I can read everyone's testimony, and so can you. You can read our testimony and everything around. We know that there were 37 pieces of testimony submitted in support for as comments for the budget this year. 2 of them were not from us. So we had 35 out of the 37. And then on top of that, on Tuesday morning, Aslan, myself, and Bob all drove over to Hilo. And we were the only in-person testifiers in the room there. And Julia, thank you so much. She went up to Waimea and testified remotely, and we were the 4 testifiers at that hearing. And the nice thing about that, it was a pretty intense room. It was the start of the whole budget discussion session. It was in front of all of county council, was up there on the dais. And then the rest of the room, it was the 3 of us, Bob, me, and Aslan, and the rest of the room were all county administration. It was the mayor, it was his managing director, his assistant managing director, and basically all the people that were at all the talk stories. The fire chief, the police chief, the planning director, public works, all the important people were in the room to hear us say, these are the things that we care about, and this is important. And they had read and seen all the testimony that was sent in, and they took it seriously. The thing that I took away the most positive part about the whole thing is that council members who are not from our district, who are from other parts of the island, were raising Waikōloa Village and the need for a second road as the highest priority for the county later on in the hearing after we talked. They weren't bringing that back up to us. They were talking to the mayor. They were talking to Rohante, the managing director, and they were saying, hey, listen, we have things that we care about in our district. Waikōloa Village is going to come.
Yeah, I think it was Councilwoman Galimba. I don't know what district she's from, but she said Waikōloa is, I think, quote, the highest priority, which was, I don't know, I almost cried. Can I back it up?
Yeah, please.
So for those who don't know, we asked everyone to write letters to the mayor to ask him to include in his budget, in his draft budget, money for the design and engineering work for the new road. It was not in his budget. So our next strategy was to then work with our councilman, James Eustace, and he, in conversations, had said he was very willing to write an amendment to the budget for the money necessary for the design and engineering of the road. But he's a freshman councilman. And so in talking to him and talking to his office, it became clear it would be really helpful if we could get the community to send letters and then for us to testify in person so that our councilman had a little bit of leverage to now go to the rest of the council and work his magic and say, see, everyone wrote letters and these people came and testified. This is really important. So that's why we drove over there. And it was extraordinarily positive. And Matthew wrote a thank you letter to a thank you email to all of the council members this morning. And Koleka Inaba, another council member, emailed us back right away and said, thank you for testifying. I'll let Councilman Eustace take the lead, but please know that Waikōloa, I see it as a high priority, and he has my support for an amendment, which is incredible.
Well, he's the chair of the council.
He's the
He's
chair.
not just anyone, he's the person in charge of council.
Yeah.
So that's a
So
big
it's a really
deal.
big deal, to hear that we have his support, so now we are just gonna let our councilmen work. They have budget, special finance committee, hearings every day this week for the rest of the week. They have to go through every single office, so, on Friday is planning and public works. So, our call to anyone here, there's another opportunity to testify in person, if you can make it to Hilo at 9 a.m. on Friday. It's hard, right? It's in the middle of the workday, but we felt like it was incredibly worth it. It was incredibly worth it, to give testimony, and we're specifically asking for $2.5 million in this budget for the engineering and planning of the road. And right now I feel optimistic that we'll get it. So I'm hopeful.
So we don't want to be around counting votes until it happens. The amendment hasn't even been submitted. Nothing is final or written in stone, but we are optimistic. This process is going to take about another month or so. The actual final vote for the council is in, I don't know, May something. Do you know what day it is by any chance, or is it they scheduled? Fifth? Okay, so
But that's just the first vote.
that's the first one.
Yeah, final read is until.
Okay, yeah, so we got a while, the path is still laid out in front of us, nothing is assured, nothing is guaranteed. But it was great to see them all take it seriously and. Yeah, we had a little sidebar with the mayor afterwards, he's enthusiastic and is putting his support behind it. One other thing that was really interesting, they were talking a lot about other potential revenue sources for the county at one point, and they were talking about the lease at Waikōloa coming up again. They were specifically saying, hey, maybe we can try and see if we can leverage that to get some infrastructure and road funding back here in the county. So they're thinking about it, and it's more serious now that the schedule is coming up. So it was great, and we wouldn't have been able to do this unless we had gotten all of the testimony from all of you and all of the people that are remote and on the mailing list. So that was a really, really big deal. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add?
Yes, please, Julia.
I would like to suggest that everybody that testified, that we send them an email from WSAW, just saying thank you.
Oh, sure.
And just maybe say something like, and why don't you talk to your neighbor about it, so we can pick up some more steam. I don't take the opportunity, you know,
Sure.
to share it with them.
You need a written testifiers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
why
can do
not?
that. I want to give a lot of credit too to the WBA. They
Yep.
wrote a letter in,
Awesome.
and specifically Dan Richards, who's on the WBA board, got to work right away and sent it out to his email newsletter list, his email subscribers. So yeah, we saw, because we asked on a Friday, and then by Monday at noon, which was the deadline, we had 37 emails, which was really amazing.
It's a big deal.
So
That is.
thank you. That's a good idea, Julia. I'll do that.
Just,
Yes.
I'll do that. I think
Thank
it would go a long way.
Yeah, and
and then you got more mailers on your list.
well. I'm pretty sure all.
We should have all of
And an email.
I want to reiterate real quick, just for the record of the cameras and everything, Dan Richards' testimony was amazing, it was incredible. I encourage you to read it if you haven't. I was so happy that someone else was out there spitting the hot fire that wasn't me. It was very appreciated from that point of view. And also the WBA, it was clear, it was concise, and it was straightforward. And I really, really, really appreciate Roger for putting that in. So thank you.
Yeah, it was great.
Any questions about the budget and finance and where we're heading with this whole process right now?
You included in the email I got, I never got to it, Mayor, but I wrote to the senators.
Senators.
About federal funding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. We have been having those conversations too. We've been maintaining dialogue. I don't know if those have happened since the last meeting. Days blend together pretty
That's okay.
clearly.
Wanting to.
Yeah, we had a call with Senator Hirono's office and with Takuta's office as well. And mostly we were talking about federal funding for the trees because we were asking for their help to work with Hawaiian Electric to take care of those trees, which in conversations with them, they said that they sent communication to Hawaiian Electric and they did not find the response satisfying. I I
But
mean,
they're
I'll
also-
let them manage that relationship.
Yeah.
But then Hawaiian Electric came out and they trimmed the trees.
They did trim, yes.
So action happened, something happened.
And
CC to PUC. Is there one of them utility?
Oh, sure.
Just the
we are exploring that, you see a little bit, we'll see where that all goes, that's a thing that Bob and David and I have been talking about a lot. That is a very complicated system to start diving into. But we're making the introductions, making the phone calls, because they are aware we existed, so that means something. Yeah, let me real quick recap the other part about the Corona call that was interesting. We transitioned from the trees and the fire rates and the lines to the road pretty quickly, because we do still want big pockets for that. Problem is with the federal branch, if we were to get into any budget, that budget then would have to pass. And that depends on a lot of things happening that we don't have control over. So we aren't putting all our eggs in that basket, but they were talking about it. And one very specific thing that they were encouraging us to look into, and I have then brought it up at the county and state level as well, is HUD funding. Apparently, the Kamakōa Nui workforce housing is getting tens of millions of dollars from the federal government, from the Housing and Urban Development. Is there a way that we can tie in Evacuation Road into that? And there is a specific grant fund that they pointed out to us. And we are in the process of researching. It's a community development thing. And you know, who knows how we can argue that and whatnot. But that type of funding is the funding that then would go through the state. I'd sniff in at the State Department of Transportation. Greetings, Bob. Glad we started with that. When Bob and I met with him back in October, he specifically asked for engineering drawings and the alignment so that he could then go and figure out how expensive this whole road is gonna cost and go figure out where he was gonna get that money from. This HUD grant might be one of those options. We don't know that for a fact, obviously it is up in the air, but we're out there exploring, we're talking about it. I just want to let everyone know for the record, it is progressing forward on that. So,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was also gonna say that both Takuna's office and Corona's office have sent letters to the Secretary of Energy asking for our funding to be restored on the tree thing. They have not received responses from the Secretary of Energy, but they also said they haven't received responses from anyone and anything. So we're not special there. But that's what's going on.
Before we move on from the hearings, which you can give your recap as well now that you're here, but I forgot the biggest win. After we got back, I was streaming it, you can watch them. And I happened to go to log in when the housing director was presenting, Kay Howe Costa, who's wonderful, smart woman. And our councilman James Eustace asked her about the Nanakoa Loop Road.
Kamakōa.
Or I'm sorry, Kamakōa, Nanakai, Kamakōa, I'm sorry. What is that road actually called?
It's gonna be called Kamakōa.
The loop, Kamakōa Loop Road?
Yeah.
Well, right now it's called Kamakōa Drive.
Kamakōa.
Right.
But it's for the workforce housing going in, it's a road that they have to put in. And he just asked her, can you update me on that and what's going on? And what she said, I think, was profound. And she said it to Matthew in a conversation as well, which is, you know how I feel about this, and I don't feel comfortable moving like with this affordable housing project, knowing that there's not an escape route for people, which I think is remarkable to hear that. So the council heard it from us, they heard it from Kay Howe, and I didn't watch the whole day. I mean, these things go from 9 to past 5, I think. So who knows when else it was mentioned, but I thought that was a really big deal as well. Yeah.
Well, I think the takeaway for me from yesterday was that the mayor in his presentation of the budget said nothing about the road for Waikōloa, nothing at all. And he testified and made his presentation after we testified, his public comment was taken. So he knew that we were there, that we raised this, and the fact that he said nothing, to me, was making me more angry, you know, after hearing so much from us and being here in the community and seeing 200 people show up and all of that. And then one of the council members, Linda, made a comment that she said this road has to be a priority. And it was after that the mayor said, well, maybe we can find money for this. But it was a maybe. So we're not there yet. It's a breakthrough because he's now shifted the conversation from don't think you need it to let's look for the money. So that is the breakthrough, the moment for yesterday. But we can't count that as a win. We don't have the money. So we have to keep working on it. And that's why we're probably gonna go back on Friday and offer some more testimony. And if more people can do it, it'd be good if you show up, or at least send more comments. Not try to, because the chairman made it clear that the record would be held open through Friday. So anything that comes in from the community between now and Friday is legit, no problems there. So we want to keep adding voices. Can. But that, I just wanted to share the dynamic of how it unfolded during the day. To show that the mayor is not really on board. He's responding to the message he got from council. Not so much.
I guess that I wouldn't say he's not on board with this. I think that he sees this as a priority and important. He also sees it as dollar signs and expensive. And it's balancing. So we're figuring it out, we're moving the ball forward, and it's not dead yet, is the big thing. We can still get the money this year.
I don't think he said anything to indicate that he thinks it's a priority.
Well, he's known it's a priority since I got on board of trying to get him in the office,
Well, yeah, I mean, your comment along with ours made it clear how important this is to the community. He only responded to statements from council saying that this has to be a priority. That was the only thing that was a response.
Which is why I think it was a big deal that we got a number of members of council to say something. And
Absolutely.
I was telling him, I don't know if you saw the email from Paleka Inaba.
Yes, I did see
I think
that.
that's all really, really promising. So if it gets us a little bit further to hear it from council, I felt like that was very positive.
I think it was essential that we showed up,
Yes.
that triggered the response from council. I don't think they would have addressed it. Someone hadn't been there laying out the testimony. And the fact that we had 4 people testifying, including Julia online, that was really made a difference.
What I took away from the Waikōloa meeting, was there with all the other people, that he wants to, like, I'll use the word delegate, it's better, to the council, to the experts. He doesn't really want to get everything in his mind. And that he told me, he said it right out, I'm a psychologist by trade, right? So, politics, budget, anything else like that. And I have to say that I'm sure he's still running the loss of his lovely wife. That, he's probably pretty overwhelmed, and he made the comment, people behind me are the experts, and that's why they're here for me.
Mhm.
So that's what my hope is, that's why he didn't say anything,
No, he's a very good politician. He knows not to make promises that he can't keep. I get it, and I don't want to talk about the mayor's personality for this whole meeting. I don't think that's appropriate or necessary. And I think-
No,
Yeah,
it's not the
that's
best.
fair.
it's just totally what I heard, and I appreciate him delegating.
Yeah, no, he is
He's
delegating.
a big delegator. He's been working, we
Yeah,
talked a lot about.
but the way you delegate is to say, this is a priority, go do it.
Okay.
That's a delegation.
That's.
We've
Do you
not
know
heard
he
that.
hasn't done that?
We haven't heard it from him.
But do you know that he has not done that?
We don't know,
We don't know.
but he hasn't told us that he's done it.
But you don't know,
And we have to keep asking.
Yeah.
but you don't know.
And we have to keep asking until he says yes. When we know,
He won't be
We
the
will
one
know.
who says yes.
I mean, you know, I appreciate all the efforts you guys are putting into it, and I'm sort of on the outside, you know, of this conversation you had, said it, especially our last meeting, but. You know, a lot of it is, this is my personal take on this, okay, there's a big island, they're all responsible for a lot of things. And whoever before them, they've got to pick and choose their words and we have to take the fact, what I take away from this is, it's positive, it's moving, they have the attention. Now,
that
it's
is the
not
shift.
right, but it's not, I don't know that it's a shift, because I think it's been a priority, but it's not ever going to be until. You know, like, okay, here's your pile of money, it's going to be step by step by step, and so part of it is, I understand the frustration of not having it definitively said. Or every time you see them, they're not like, this is a priority, it's. That you have, we have the village and all of you, because of your effort, have this and have moved this forward. And it's maintaining it, and you know, making sure that it gets broadened and getting more people, getting the other council people to say something is great. And it keeps it moving, but it's not done because they've made it positive, made a statement about it. But it also doesn't mean that it's dead when they don't make a statement, and it's somewhere in the middle, and you know, that's all I can say about it. And I just take from the fact that it's moving is a positive thing, and it's never really, really good, and it's never really, really bad.
We got Schrodinger's road right now. We don't know if it's gonna exist or not yet, and it's in a lot of people's heads. And I have my understanding of why we're at where we're at. It doesn't really matter. What matters is hopefully this money shows up in the next month and a half. And then I cannot emphasize how much chiller my whole demeanor is gonna be. All I want is for someone to write down on a piece of paper, yes, we are doing this, and here is some money to get started. Doesn't need to be the whole money for the whole road. In fact, we don't want that right now because we don't know how much we need, right? We need to figure out how much we need.
Engineering plans,
But
right?
we need someone to say, yes, we are doing this. That is what I care about.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing we've all done in the first, I don't know, 6 to 9 months was spent trying to understand the problem and untangle the contracts and figure out the how did we get here part. And now we realize that the most important thing we bring to this conversation is momentum, right? Like, we can't let them forget, and we have to keep writing a testimony, and we have to keep showing up to meetings. And we are trying to be very careful about how many times we reach out to you guys and say we need help, because it can get really fatiguing. But we do have to keep doing it. So that's why we want to start by just saying thank you. Whenever you can send things in, please do. And if sometimes you can't and you're overwhelmed, we understand that too, which is why we're trying to grow our base, because we know that it's a lot. It's a lot that we have to keep doing to keep the momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why we have to keep getting comments.
Yes.
When I was working on preparing my testimony, I found a 2017 letter that I had sent to Margaret Willey when I first started with the CDP. And it reflected on a Waikōloa emergency road environmental assessment from 2006. Did you folks ever review that? And you saw with Ainalea and Bridge Ainalea having full responsibility of the road. Okay, well, I think that.
Was that for Hulu?
That was cool, and so, yeah, if Bridge Ainalea ever gets restarted, I have been told that they will then take over Hulu and expand it out into a 2-lane road for use for construction traffic, and then it also be used for the village. I mean, Hulu, I don't wanna talk about Ainalea at all, because that's 40 years of bankruptcy, so
Well, I know.
I can't even.
No, I know, but it's my understanding that the old workforce housing, that Pinkston's involved with it, the guy from Waikōloa Plaza. And so I don't know if they're gonna make them its onuses, but I had all this verbatim that I had written on how many occasions the county had said that it's definitely necessary.
No, yeah,
I know, okay.
Well, I appreciate that, I know, and we had, like what Aslan was saying, we spent our first 6 to 9 months just gathering documents and then learning the lay of the land, bring it all out, we have seen that, can't cite a chapter and verse, but yes, we have seen all of those things. At this point, it doesn't really matter, what matters is we need to get the road started. That's what matters, and the council heard that, and every single director in the county heard that. And the best part about the whole thing, the most important thing, I think, honestly, was Aslan's testimony, she led off everything. She kept from crying, she held it back from crying, but there was a couple of points where it was a little close, it was a little emotional, I think it locked them in. It was like, okay, this is serious, this is real, we care about it, and everything after that, they were listening to us very, very. We're gonna keep up with that, I have faith that we have given our councilman enough support that he can go and request these funds without fear of wasting political. We shall see. Anyone else want to talk about the budget? I think we can move on.
I think so too.
Okay,
I have a quick question.
yes,
When you go and testify in person, how do you know how long you've been there? Did they take you first thing in the morning?
Yes.
oh yeah, so it's a really interesting setup, the way that all of the testimony works, it's always, they call to session and they do public testimony first thing before they introduce any of the agenda items, any of the other speakers or whatever. They also reserve the right to introduce public testimony before each subsequent speaker, before each subsequent agenda item. So like, let's say you showed up an hour and a half late, didn't want to talk about the managing director's thing, but you want to talk about the liquor control person or whatever. They could call you in to testify about that as well. I don't think they do that very often because it's not very many people actually show up. But
Well, we got there at 8:30.
after 8:30.
Put our names down. We testified starting at 9:05. We were out by 10:30 when they took their first recess. We just didn't want to sit there for the whole day, but yeah, you could also testify and leave.
And you can leave, yeah.
And you can leave, yeah, you can leave anytime, but they're very strict about 3 minutes, so I practiced mine several times and I got in at 2 minutes and 45 seconds or something like that, because they have to move on, they have a lot of things to cover. But it wasn't scary, they were all really nice, everyone smiles at you.
Okay, I was just wondering how long you would have to sit there, but
You
it's
can
first
just,
thing.
you can talk and leave,
Right.
yeah, first thing right at 9:05, and then you just leave. That's
Or you
great.
can go to the office, kid.
My main office.
Or yeah, sorry, our councilman's aide is here tonight, and you can testify in Waimea at the councilman's office. You can connect with Kendra after if you wanna do that. But I did feel like, no offense, Julia, being in the room and making eye contact with every council member was, I mean, it was,
It's much more,
it's very impactful, very, very
it's
impactful.
great to do it, the video, but it's great.
Yeah, I would just say, I mean, I was trying to keep my emails short. I know you guys get a lot of emails. Be clear about the ask, so we're asking for support for the $2.5 million. And then it's not the council's fault we don't have a room, right? So like we're just not trying to go in and blame anybody or yell at anybody. I was really just trying to make it clear the need and why we're so passionate about it. And then be really, and thank them for their time. And so clear ask, don't get mad at them. I don't think they appreciate that. I don't think anyone appreciates that. And say mahalo, and that was it.
Okay, before we get onto the other testimony part and content part, let's talk about fundraising stuff that's been going on a little bit. In the front, so we are, again, 501c3 real thing, and I actually have started doing a little bit of outreach to local community, to businesses and asking for money. The first ask that we've put together is a little about $3,000 package for new AV equipment, so we aren't doing this this little Scotch tape and duct tape routine anymore. So we have a nice camera, our own projector, all of that stuff. I have a little letter out there that we printed out a few of them. I walked around to literally every business that was open in the plaza and in the Highland Center and just handed them that, and also handed them a little flyer if they could put them up on bulletin boards. So you may have seen it in the gym or at Ace or wherever. So we did do that, but we got some more flyers. If you get more letters, if you guys want to participate in this action, this is a capacity building thing that I would much appreciate if people could distribute them or pass them out. And if anyone online ever sees this, please ask us some requests. We'll provide them as well. I would love assistance with that. But that's sort of just our first step. We are also doing a second. I have a couple of different specific ideas for projects that I want to submit funds for. The first one is we want to make better flyers for handing out at the farmers markets and community events that we go to and whatnot. We've been noticing a lot of people that show up and talk to us at farmers markets are tourists who think that they can't do anything, but they can. They could sign up for Nixle alerts, right? They could know what is going on around them. So we want to have a little flyer that literally says, tourists, here the way to participate. We would design it all nice and whatever, have a QR code on it. And then the other one that we would have is the second flyer that says 2 things you can do now as residents. First one is sign up for Nixle alerts. And the second one would be request a home ignition zone study. From Firewise, check out the burnable, defensible space around your house, and connect them to that thing. So we're gonna submit a grant to get that all nice and professionally made and whatnot, so that we'll have it out there, from some of the smaller groups. First Hawaiian Bank specifically asked for some sort of outreach grant, so that is the group that I'm gonna target and hopefully get some money for that one. The KTA also emailed me back and said that they would be happy to set us up with a table out in front at any point in time if we want. So if we ever want to collect signatures, or distribute flyers, or just get out there and talk to people, please let me know. We should absolutely take advantage of that, set that up. He was very enthusiastic about it and doing that. That was the other outreach part that came out of that. And there's 2 other sort of bigger picture grants that I want to apply for here somewhat soon. Now, if anyone is aware of the Koi Pond Bridges Hui Fund, I saw that, Julia. We are going to be nice about it right now on camera and everything. This is a foundation here on the island that is targeting retaining employment for young people in Hawaii, trying to keep them in the state. And so they are funding specifically like entry-level positions in nonprofits in the community. And I want to write one for 1 year for a social media coordinator. I want to have someone in their early 20s who can make Instagram reels and TikToks and post and reply, and I don't have to worry about that. So as long as everyone's cool with that, that's the thing I'm going to do. And the last one, this is sort of a little pie in the sky idea that I've got, is that I want to apply for a very, very nice drone that can do larger amounts of area, so that we can do a full scan of the entire village and the whole area around it. And not just have it be video optical, but also have it be 3D model. And then the other big one I want is to have a multispectral camera on this thing that is able to monitor plant health, so that we can see exactly how dry the area is around it. The goal from that whole process would then to be to publish that data and have it be available for researchers. Make it available to scientists on the mainland, fire scientists and whatnot, so that we can increase our visibility, so that people might take some interest in this area and broaden Waikōloa's scope out beyond just the island in the area. So planning on writing the grant for that. That's going to be a pretty expensive one, and who knows if that'll happen. But I do also know there's a number of tech billionaires around the island who like buying toys. That might be what they're going to shooting to target on that. Does anyone else have any specific ideas for fundraising? Those are the 3 that I wanted: outreach on flyers, or 4 that I wanted. Tech right now, outreach, both in the form of flyers and in capacity in the form of a person, and then some sort of tech for getting us.
We considered picking Mr. Kingston's pockets.
Take some pockets from the plaza. Well, is that?
Build a loss.
Yeah, so that's the thing, is I don't know these people, right? So I literally just walk door to door, and that's why I'm asking for some help. If you guys want to take some of those flyers, by all means, feel free to distribute just that entry one on the AV thing. And then if we can turn that around and leverage that into a real philanthropy relationship, I would be thrilled.
Can't wait.
He was supposed to give Mr. Richards money because he didn't have to do it for the intersection 4 years ago, and I met him for coffee and he didn't feel guilty, but
They should be giving us some.
You can talk to them, that'd be great.
Good thoughts.
I deputize you all to do this, so it's not just me, because fundraising is a pain in the butt. It's not fun, so.
Just use the first 3 words to make it best, fun. Sorry.
Yes. Anyone have anything to contribute on that? Any questions? Are we all cool with sort of the trajectory where I'm heading on this whole thing? The last agenda item that we have today is the evacuation study that you probably all have been seeing in the various articles recently. The public comment period on the CDBG MIT action plan amendment. So the county got a grant from the federal government, what was it, like $6 million, $6.5 million, something like that. And they want to shift some of the funds out of that to pay for the evacuation study that was already issued. The RFP was already issued here in the county. And this is great. We brought this up with the council in person, and my first knee-jerk reaction was, wait, what's going on? I thought we already had this requested. Why are we now commenting on it again? And I was confused. And I also, my concern or fear was that it would be used as like a stall tactic, a way to wait a year. So, okay, we actually need to get an expert to tell us that we need a second road. And that just slows down the whole process beyond that. I don't think that's what's going on here, and I have expressed that exact concern in my testimony in front of the council and all of the important people. The value of this study is the road's going to take a while. It's not getting built next year. It's not getting built the year after that. This is going to take 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. In the interim, we've still just got the one road in Hulu. We need to have some strategy. We need to have a plan for how to get out of here fast. That's what this evacuation study is here, as best it can, right? It's going to say, we don't know exactly what it's going to provide, right? Because we didn't write it. We aren't on the, we aren't the contractors there, but we are going to interface with them, and we're going to say, hey, these are the things that we really want. And that is a value that will be protecting for the area. And this is also yet another way for everyone in the community to tell the county, this is what's going on and this is what we care about. The comment period for this is from today, it's open right now through the end of the month, through the 30th. And there's also a virtual hearing on the 16th, which is next Wednesday. Is that 6 o'clock? Is that right? 6 o'clock. And so we can all get on and tell them exactly what we think about it. So it's confusing. I didn't gotten all the answers about it. I don't think that even county knows about all the answers about what exactly is going on here. But we want this to happen. We don't want to kill it. We don't want them to say, no, you don't get this anymore. So yes, that's an important thing.
I would say if anyone here uses social media, I keep seeing comments from people on articles about this saying, you know, why do we need this? What's going on, blah, blah, blah. And I've been doing my best to say, yes, I know we have to give comments all the time. I know we've been asking for a road and that we need things like this, but please still participate and please still engage. So if anyone uses social media, if you want to chime in and help me, that would be great, because I'm trying to sort of counteract that fatigue and exhaustion that the whole community feels. And just like Matt said, it's still important. Like if the county is asking for our participation in this, and people from the county want to put dollars and time into keeping our community safe, I'm not gonna say what the hell, I don't want this, because I do. I want a road too. I want both things. So let's try to keep encouraging people to still participate, because my fear is that they're gonna say, okay, we have this money, we want community feedback, and they hear nothing. Right? And then they hear, well, we were gonna give you money, but we didn't hear anything. Like that's something I worry about. So we should still participate and show that we care over and over and over. We have to show that we care here and give testimony, show that we care here and give comments. We have to keep doing it. So yeah, please participate.
Yeah, I would also say, I mean, some of it isn't fatigue. I mean, I know when you say you're asking people about fatigue. it's also the messaging where we did this study, I was just reading a couple. And,
Right.
and
A
can't break
few-
my phone by throwing it, but it's we did this, 15, 20 years ago, I did all this, 7 years ago, we did this. It's sort of, as Matt was saying earlier, the whole, yeah, we know that we needed a road 20 years ago, and that's all water under the bridge, and it's more of just looking at it, and I'm not being Pollyanna, but it's saying, this is before us, and let's make lemonade from it. And just say, great, thanks, we're gonna chime in, we want this study. They did one last year, they wasted money on it or whatever, it doesn't really matter when I look at these things, it's really trying to get the message out, and I agree, it's just trying to chime in when people are like, there's just a series of, oh, we did this, and there's no need, why do the study? Oh, it's another study. No, just. That's the way it's always been, and it's just trying to drown that out, like this. Slowing down and saying, okay, I can agree with that, but I just need to say, this is really helpful, just come on and say it, just take, 2 sentences, doesn't have to do that. So it isn't just, where you're asking, it is sometimes just being able to come back over the top and say, oh, well, we did that already. No, that was then, we need to say, we do this.
Yeah, I think people are confused, I've seen that too. Well, we've had a few changes since anyone last looked or thought about evacuation. Waikōloa Road is now wide enough that I think you could, in theory, fit 4 lanes of cars, and that should really be looked at by someone who's an actual traffic engineer or evacuation specialist, blah, blah, blah. And who's been, what's it called, chip seal, thank you, like, there's new changes, so there's value in it. It's not the answer, but there's a lot of value in it.
I think maybe we'll finally find out whether a phased evacuation is the right approach or not.
And I just made another note, I was like, did I email those guys?
I'm so,
Evacuation by zone?
the one thing, ever since this whole study has been raised, first time I ever heard it come out of Talmadge's mouth last October, he has emphasized over and over and over again that there will be lots of opportunity for the public to participate and comment. So I have no fear that this is gonna get shoved down our throats. We're gonna be interfacing with whoever's writing the study plenty. They're gonna know me.
But
And so we're
we
gonna.
have to engage with all those opportunities, right? Like, I've gone to several meetings about the general plan, and people are upset saying, well, I never knew about this, and they've been talking about the general plan for, I don't know,
Years,
3
years.
years now, and they had a lot of opportunities. So if you don't engage, that doesn't mean that there weren't opportunities, that means that you didn't engage. So we're just trying to do our best to amplify the opportunity for engagement, but we have to grab it. And I always say, now I say online, don't grumble, don't just grumble online, participate in it, because it's really easy for people to get upset online, and I know I've done it myself. But we still have to participate in the process.
Sort of going back to the participation thing, I was stunned there were only 4 testifiers at the county on Tuesday morning. And one of the council members walked up to Haslam afterwards and was like, yeah, thank you for coming. I can't believe more people don't do this all the time. So
Heather
like,
Kimball.
yeah.
I'm at 9 AM on Tuesday.
I know, but still, it's important.
I was like,
And
Heather, it's hard to
say it
do.
to me.
No, I think it's totally understandable,
Yeah.
because they've not put out any effort to educate the community about what's in the budget, about why it's important, about what the critical issues are that they would invite comment on, or even tell people that there's an opportunity for comment. None of that has happened. There's none of that.
It's
So you
by
can't be
accident.
surprised that people don't show up.
I guess, that's fair. But seeing how many people show up.
But before we move on to something like that,
Please.
which isn't focused on anything of consequence. We need to talk about what comments we want to submit on this study. I mean, it's one thing to say, yeah, we should show up and sign in.
Sure.
But if we don't say something of consequence, there's no point. So the critical issue that I see in this study is that they need to evaluate both the evacuation situation without a second road, without a second arterial highway. We have, people say, well, we got a second road, we got one way, it's not really a second highway, it's not another arterial. But the study needs to look at what are the changes that happen between the current situation with one main highway and what will be created as a benefit for the community if we have a second highway. That is the critical issue here. That will help determine the importance of investing in the second arterial highway. And it will also tell us what needs to change in terms of the design of the evacuation plan if we have this. Because whatever plan they come up with on the current situation will quickly become totally irrelevant as soon as we have a second major highway into the community. So there's no point in investing $500,000 or $1 million in doing a study that's going to become useless within a few years. So we want to make sure that this looks at both scenarios, the current situation and what happens. That should be the focus of our comments.
I think we should add that if one of the big gorgeous pine trees falls down over Waikōloa Road and Waikōloa Malka is closed, how are we gonna get out of here? You're gonna get Hulu? I mean, she taught all this up. And it's a valid point, you know, you're not gonna get enough gray shirts to come and chop the tree down so people can actually use Waikōloa Road for an exit.
Well, there's a bunch of issues. That's one issue. Another issue is what are the differences between a school day and a non-school day?
Yeah.
2021 was on a Sunday. There was no school. We have 850 kids in that school, most of whose parents do not work in the village.
Correct.
They work out of the village.
I know.
They drop off their kids and they're gone. If a fire starts, they're gonna come back, they're gonna commit every essence of their being to come back and retrieve their kid.
Experience that.
So
Fire.
we need to have a study that looks at what happens when we have 850 parents trying to come into the village to get their kids, and what happens to traffic when they turn around with a kid in the car and try to leave with all the rest of us.
I know.
So that is another issue that we should raise.
But wouldn't that actually assume that that's going to be in the study?
You can't assume anything.
Right, but the point what I get is that the issue here is that they need to do the study. And I think somewhat disagree. The fact is to study, we don't have any plan. So for the next 3 to 5 years, before
That's
there's a
why
road,
we have to raise the
You have to
issue.
see them.
but a plan is needed. If they could do a plan, 6 months, we have a plan first 2026.
This is
It'll
not a
happen.
plan,
Just-
they're not proposing a
Just,
plan.
just, it's hypothetical. If they put a plan together where it's effective and it tells us how to get out of here now, okay? That's useful until we have a second road. I'm not discounting the fact that it'll change, but maybe that's a second part of the study. So where I'm going is, again, it's the positive message is we need them to do an evacuation plan. The details of it, the specificity, I think is, if we just say we want a plan that considers the second road, it'll help emphasize the need. I think that's a natural part of this study. We'll come out and say, you know, this is the current and this is where everybody's got to go. It will help to have another. But if we say, don't tell us how to get out of here with our current environment, only look at it when we have a full second arterial.
No one has said that.
He said to compare the two, he said to do.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, but saying that it has to take into consideration that, it has to take into consideration school. We're assuming that it's by saying that has to be part of it. Is maybe you want to be that specific. I'm just saying, generally saying, we support the need for a traffic study, an evacuation study.
Yeah, this is not an evacuation study, it's a traffic study.
The traffic plan, I'm sorry, but I'm saying, but why is it not good enough to say that we need to?
It's called an emergency evacuation.
Evacuated traffic study or traffic.
So I'm just saying, why isn't it not good enough just to say that we support it and to help Waikōloa in our current situation and our future situation, we support having them do that? As opposed to saying it has to be specific of
I
saying, we need all these things in there.
I think,
Because otherwise
it
the
can be
money will
both.
be wasted if they don't address this.
well, we don't know that.
They won't.
I-
So I'm just trying to say the biggest thing is to get people out there to say we need it. And not having to go all, some people can be very specific, some people getting out there and saying 2 sentences saying, we support this and we really encourage it, is good.
So are
So I
you
think-
trying to, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I
No
think we
one's
can,
talking against that.
I think we could say,
I got the message you were saying it has to include all these things in our statements, and I'm just saying, I didn't think.
Yes, I am saying that if we're gonna submit comments, we should submit comments that ask them to make a study that has. That addresses these concerns, yes. But if somebody wants to submit 2 sentences, no one's saying don't do
Okay, I
that.
thought you were saying that our messaging out to people is you have to include all this information.
I
I
think we should alert
misinterpreted you're
people.
saying that WSAW needs to end this core group or, needs to concentrate on that. But the
By-
message advocacy can be as general as just support.
It can be, sure.
Okay, that's.
By
all I-
April 30th, though, we should have this all submitted.
We do support it, but there has to be clarity that this is not intended to slow down progress, correct? They need to go parallel. That's the message I delivered to the council, and that's very important. But this is not something that they are using to gather, to buy their time. The county is saying, okay, we don't have the funds, I don't think that this is what's actually going on, but it is a concern and it is a plausible scenario that they don't have the money in the account right now. And they're saying, but we gotta do something to protect the village, so we'll deal with it next year, but in the meantime, we're gonna do an evacuation study. That's not okay, they gotta do the engineering drawings and the study at the same time, that is
But I
a
think
message
that's-
that. But-
well, I personally feel like that's a dangerous thing to put out into the community, because people could hear that and think that that's true versus just a concern that you have. We don't
It is a
know.
concern that I have.
I
So want
agree,
that
but I
question
should say,
answered.
let's talk about it in this room, but I'm not putting that online anywhere.
No, and I'm not intending to say that this is gonna be the WSAW thing. But I'm raising that point next Wednesday. In the hearing, I wanna have a response from them about that, because. It's important. Maybe we can't, yes.
I think there are a couple of things. So one, I think it's excellent for people to go out and say that they support this evacuation and traffic study, which is both. I also think it's important to acknowledge the fact that you are 100% right. We don't want this thing to slow down the ultimate goal or what is really the next step, which is the engineering design plans. I don't think that's going to be true, but I agree with Aslan in saying that you want to be careful about the messaging that you put out there. Because you can say that the sky is blue today and that messaging gets confused on social media. So I think we just have to be very, very careful about that. Regarding the comments that are going to be allowed. I think it's important, yes, to look forward, because I do think this road is coming. I think it's important to look forward in the fact that there are some more specific things that have to be an evacuation and traffic study. But I also think that this evacuation and traffic study has to, because until the road is built, take into consideration ways that we can get out of the village now. We can't look at page 57 and say, well, if we had the road, we would get out that way, because we know that's not going to work. So all joking aside, we're probably looking at something that is partially written one way and partially written another to the best of its ability, thus then needing an update when the second road is actuality. And if that's in 3 years, fabulous. If it's in 5 years, still fabulous. But I think we're dealing with a unique situation, because they're not just going to be able to make an evacuation and traffic study just on the fact that the road is coming. So I think we have to be careful, as you said, about how we phrase this in public and social media. And then you have, and we all have, the opportunity on the 16th, and then also to write in, to be able to say, these are the things that we really hope will be included, and these are the reasons why.
Yeah.
So I think it's so multifaceted that it's a little hard to
Yeah,
just go.
I think that we all are sort of saying the same thing. And we understand the same thing, but this is a positive benefit for the community if executed properly. But it also has a couple of potential pitfalls if done wrong. And we all wants to be done right. So,
So I think I'll work with Bob and I'll get some of your ideas, for what people should include and then put together an email, kind of like we did last time. And, but also say, if you just wanna say I support it, then that's perfect. But if you wanna say a little more, here are some ideas, but just the same thing I did with council testimony. Great. Anything else? Okay. I mean, before we move on to public feedback opportunities that are coming up, a lot of which we've already talked about. Anyone else have any questions about anything? Top story?
we haven't raised any questions about what's been going on lately.
Well, we haven't talked at all about evacuation.
What do you mean?
We don't know what's going on with evacuation.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's dead in my understanding. Because that was a complete Summers West, John Birch led thing. If you go on the permanent site and see the contact list, John Birch is listed as the contact. He does not work for Summers West anymore, according to the mayor, and as far as my experience, that's true too. So until that whole thing gets sorted out, nothing's going, in my opinion.
I don't know, the NPR, the
Right,
HBR.
that's my concern.
Yeah, no, I share that concern with you, but that's also where getting the county funds committed is so important. Because the first thing that the county, the Department of Public Works is gonna do with this funds is they're gonna go figure out what needs to be taken care of. My understanding is that there are things that are sitting in the developer's lap right now that have not been taken care of, that are holding up the permit. I can't make them do it.
Yeah.
I'd love to,
I think
but I
that was an
can't.
email that you sent us, Julia, was it from Merrick?
What's that
You
now?
sent us an email, you forwarded us
from Merrick.
something, yeah, Merrick had said,
Yeah,
last he heard about the permits for that new
Yeah.
evacuation road.
yeah.
Is that they were waiting on some things from the
Correct.
developers and, you know, that's their timeline.
No, I wasn't waiting for the developers.
No, it was one portion of there was a permit that wasn't approved
Oh,
from the DPW. There was something that was hanging, and it was on the,
The hanging was the cultural
excavation
resources.
portion.
The hanging piece was cultural resource.
Yeah, it should be.
They were waiting for a response from the state. So,
Should we get started?
Yeah, but then the state, I think, was requesting stuff from, we don't know, is the bottom line, what's going on, and we're speculating at this point. It says 20%
yeah, but
complete.
that's the point I'm raising.
Yeah.
We need to, we're not. We've not got that on our agenda for advocacy.
Yeah.
But who do we advocate to?
We need to do some research to figure that out.
I support
I
that.
mean, I think,
Agreed.
you know, talking to Merrick,
Yeah,
again,
I will.
would be helpful because
I'll get an update.
he can tell us more specifically exactly where the delay is.
Yeah, he worked for DPW for a long time, so it was a really cool research. It's like.
We have requested a meeting, you plus me, with a lot of people at the county, which I think is gonna happen in the next couple of weeks. We'll ask that question to that meeting.
Okay. All
Can I
right,
answer this?
that is an action item.
Okay,
That's what I was looking
Yes.
for.
And I think probably the best thing that could happen in conjunction with that meeting, which will likely be on April 30th, is that we probably make a list of things that we want to discuss with them. But we don't try to discuss it a lot with others at the present time.
Yes.
It would be good to go in front of the people that requested and that James added.
yes,
Without maybe drawing a lot of other people in.
yes. We have a strategy where we've been talking about this a little bit, I don't know where we're at on all of it, but yes. Give us a month and come back to it, and I don't like keeping secrets, I don't have any secrets, the real answer is that we don't know what's going on. But we've requested meetings with the people who we believe are the most subject matter expert in this whole thing, and we're gonna try and sort it out.
Let me ask you one question, who did Goodfellows have any hand in?
Goodfellows is also on the list. There are 5 names on the list for the permit. Goodfellows is one of them. Birch is another, and there's 3 names that I don't recognize. So I don't know if that's.
I just want to see if they know a lot.
However, I do want to bring up the last WVA board meeting. When, was it David or was it when you, Bob, were talking? At some point, Roger had a really long, interesting conversation. He was talking about all of the different landowners and the easement issues, and one of the landowners being on Maui. I don't know where all that actually lands in relation to the permissions and the what's going on. But I guarantee you easements are part of the conversation. I guarantee you that that's one of the holdups.
Well, I asked him specifically if you follow up with us on that, and he said yes, so I will
Roger,
make that connection.
there was somebody way long ago that was from Maui, that was one of the original developer people that were way before Summers West and anybody else, and he was a Maui person. And I'm wondering if he ended up just taking his slice or something.
Maybe, yeah.
Kind of a bizarre, it's just a recall coming now.
Is the guy from Waikōloa LLC presenting at the May meeting or the April meeting now? That was something that Rock was Morgan presenting.
The BRD.
Yeah.
I didn't open the revised team on it, they sent today, was that?
No, but he mentioned it, Roger mentioned at the meeting, last time that he's gonna come forth in front of the board for some proposal, and I don't know what it was about, but that'd be an interesting one to have a conversation about with.
I know he said one of the landowners, we Bill Lahante's family.
Sort of, yeah.
And Roger said that doesn't have anything to do with the road, is what he was telling me.
Yeah, but
But
I want to take the word of a couple other people
Yeah.
on that too, because this is a complicated issue with land rights
Yeah.
and easements. It's very, very, very tricky. And it's
Yeah.
quite frankly, the reason that it hasn't happened up until now.
Yeah.
And we're trying to untangle. So,
Really,
Okay, so other public feedback opportunities are the AES feedback, that's the new solar project coming in. I think at
2030.
the top of the road there, at the upper highway in Waikōloa Road in 2030, but they will have something like $287,000 a year to give out to different community groups. And so I know Waikōloa Drive Forest Preserve is putting their name in for some of that community money, but they basically have community funds and they want to hear from people where you think those funds should go to. So we're just asking people to email them and say, hey, I think that this group would be a great community group to support.
Well, that wasn't, I mean, you weren't involved in that meeting, but Mel and David and I were. And what we told AES was that we would like to see a comprehensive plan that they would help fund through their community benefits donations that involve the management of the vegetation between their development up there on the Waikōloa Highway and the village. And they asked us if we would be willing to put together a proposal. And we said we would think about it, we would make a firm commitment. But that was where it was left. And the question then is whether or not we as a group or the larger community wanted to work on putting together a vegetation management strategy they would help fund. And I think we need to get together with Rob Yagi to discuss that. Because they have the most expertise in that area. And Yagi had noticed, sent around a message on Nextdoor last week saying they had already submitted a proposal to AES and was asking the community to endorse their proposal.
Yeah.
With additional comments. And so I think we need to sit down and find out what exactly is in the Dry Forest proposal to see how comprehensive it is. And whether or not, if it's not comprehensive, whether or not they would be willing to take the lead in developing a strategy that is more comprehensive for the purpose of managing vegetation. that we could all get behind and then ask AES for funding. Because if we could get a source of consistent annual funding for vegetation management, that would be a huge benefit to the village.
It's gonna be millions of dollars over the 25 years.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
millions
there's
of dollars, but also annual work to protect the
Right,
village from
right.
fire.
Yeah, no, I get it,
It's
Yeah.
$258,000.
I know.
Yeah.
So,
Total to be split up. in five.
yeah, so maybe, but I also don't know if that's restricted by the PUC and whatnot, so I think that. This is worth a conversation, let's first talk to WDFI.
Yes,
Before we go,
yes, we
go
need
down
to
this
find
path.
out what is in their proposal.
Yeah.
And what they're willing to do. Yeah.
There are two more public feedback opportunities still going on, the long range transportation plan that is still open for comment, I believe. And then the general plan, we're gonna get back to that one in a couple of months when the county council is starting to hear about that in person, but there's nothing much we can do specifically on that at the moment, I don't believe.
Just on our radar.
Yes, on our radar.
Yeah.
And then we are having a couple of upcoming events.
Well, before we
Oh, yes,
get beyond it, I just want to highlight the fact that the Lure Commission, Plan Commission, submitted significant revisions, proposed revisions to the general plan that we have not seen. So that happened at their March meetings, I understood. And it's something that we need to look at so that we can decide whether or not we can endorse and feel comfortable with the changes that they've laid out. Or whether or not we want to suggest other modifications. Because our comments that were submitted last August were much more generic. They were basically asking for the county to spell out in greater specificity how the policies in the plan which we support. For example, there's a policy that says every community should have more than one access road. That policy is there. That's something we obviously support. But we were asking that the plans add more detail, spell out how the policy will be implemented. My understanding is that that kind of issue relating to implementation was the focus of the planning commission proposed revisions. So we need to look at that and then decide what we want to do.
Well, we will request
We had a meeting yesterday or earlier today.
Did they?
Yeah.
it. Is it on general plan stuff or is it
Legal
just
planning,
normal planning stuff?
I didn't see.
I thought they were done with their special sessions on the general plan.
Well,
Yeah, I didn't,
I thought.
but I had it on my calendar, 9:30, I don't know if it's today or tomorrow.
Yeah,
we can email them, we can reach out and check on that, but thank you for flagging that and we'll have more information.
well, Bethany mentioned it at the summit.
Yeah.
At the fire summit, that she had just received their proposed revisions. So she has them, we need to get them.
Alright. Okay,
Because I asked James, when we met with him, he had seen them. Yeah.
well, we will chase that down, thank you for flagging. Okay, so we have a special meeting coming up in 3 weeks. It is going to be Chief Todd and James are gonna come to the village. We have the school rented out. The date has changed slightly. Originally, it was going to be on April 30th. It is on April 28th. Which is a Monday evening now. Chief Todd had a scheduling conflict, so that we moved it for that. We're gonna invite all the community. We're gonna start putting it out on social media in about a week, probably 2 weeks before the event, so that it's not too far in advance. People will know it and that it's coming up. And we're gonna have refreshments provided, so yay. And please, if you guys wanna come help us set up and everything, please email us, let us know. It's gonna be at 6 o'clock, and so, sometime before then would be great. We're also gonna do the market again on May 3rd, so be cool if people that were other than Aslan, Serena and myself were doing that. And then the last point that I wanted to call out is that I'm gonna reconfirm with them tomorrow, but they did commit a few weeks ago that PTA is gonna be coming for our May meeting. Mike Deal and some people from over there, I believe, are gonna come and talk about their firefighting, their capacity and their history and what they've done. If you guys have any questions for them, please email me and I'll receive those, so make sure that they have it on their schedule. But that should be a good one for sure, I think.
You suggesting, or I'm trying to understand, are they a good resource to fight a fire if there was one?
Oh, PTA saved us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know, I was like,
fire trucks, they got,
so.
We got Blackhawk, they got helicopters that we don't have. Oh my gosh, they got gigantic bulldozers. They got more equipment than the county does up there. They got the feds. Yeah, and as long as, I don't know, but that's the thing, I couldn't sit here again, list chapter and verse every single item, their inventory item. But when I went to know them and I specifically asked, hey, what we really wanna know is a history of when you guys have helped out in the past, what your operations were, and sort of like what your capacity is up to the limit that they're allowed to share, being, you know, the Department of Defense and the Army. They might not be able to tell us every.
when is that?
It's gonna be on May 14th. It's gonna be our general monthly meeting. They'll be the presenters at our regular one here in the village, so. That'll be a good one. That'll be a one not to miss for sure. So please share it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone have anything else, or should we cut it out an hour and 15 minutes?
Sounds great. Thank you all.
Really
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
you guys.
I brought some bumper stickers for everyone to take, please. If you want to take one, second row.
Thank you for coming to the meeting. We've been seeing them around a little bit lately, so appreciate that.